From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Tuesday morning. It's 5 o'clock. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you for starting your day with us. We begin in Georgia this morning, where 2 runoff elections will decide the fate of the Senate for the next 2 years. Republicans need just 1 victory to keep their control, while Democrats must win both races. CBS's Deborah Alfarone has more on today's election and the latest on President Trump's controversial phone call.
The balance of power in Washington will be decided in Georgia today.
One state can chart the course, not just for the next 4 years, but for the next generation.
Voters head to the polls for twin runoff elections with control of the Senate at stake.
John and the Reverend.
The state turned blue for Joe Biden in November. Yesterday, he urged Georgians to rally behind Democrats Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock.
They're principled, they're qualified, they're decent.
Last night, President Trump held his own rally for Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. A win by either keeps the Senate in Republican hands.
This could be the most important vote you will ever cast.
The president also continued his baseless attack on the 2020 election.
There's no way we lost Georgia. There's no way.
Democrats are now calling for a criminal investigation into President Trump after his phone call pressuring election officials to change the results.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is 1 more than we have.
Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger spoke to CBS Evening News anchor Norah O'Donnell about that call.
Why do you think the president wanted to speak with you directly?
Probably to see if he could influence me to change my decisions.
Another top election official in Georgia shot down the conspiracy theories and false claims of voter fraud.
Everybody's vote is going to count. Everybody's vote did count.
More than 3 million Georgians cast ballots during early voting for today's runoffs. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, Washington.
Georgia Senator Kelly Loeffler said she'll join other Republicans in objecting tomorrow's Electoral College vote ratification. Now it's time to turn our attention to weather. Miller joins us way back there, feeling a little distant this morning.
You doing? Well, you got to be safe.
Feels like you're back in Georgia.
Yeah, well, I smell this morning too. That's why I'm back this morning.
And that restraining order too.
That's true.
Yes. No, all jokes.
We have our bring that up.
We have our safety rules,
sure.
So and we're following them. So
better safe than sorry.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not that I don't trust you or anything. Of
course,
I know you don't trust me. So.
Well, I'm glad I'm away from Brett. Yep. All right, my wallet's still there. All right, cool.
All right, we could go on and on making fun of this new distance that we have. If I could. Hold on.
You want to try to squeeze my hand?
No, you're too. I'm gonna like roll off the
squeezing my head. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about weather, shall we?
All right, what is it? Is it Tuesday? Boy, it's just the week's already spinning by for me already. All right, let's take a live look right now with the Stockman Bank cam. Just a beautiful start out there this morning. Again, another morning we're above average, 42 at the airport. Dew points at 19, so it's nice and dry out there. Winds out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. Now, those winds are going to start whipping today. More on that in just a second. But our high yesterday of 49, so we're still in that warming trend. Our low only down to 26. But tonight, we're actually going to start to cool down. We'll wake up in the 20s tomorrow morning as opposed to where we are right now. Now, our top wind gust yesterday of 27. We'll see sustained winds of about 20 to 30 miles an hour as we go along today because we do have this cold front that's traversing through the area. It's giving us a chance of seeing a little bit of rain this morning, maybe a bit of a wintry mix the further east you go in the state. But here in Billings, I'm just guessing maybe about a 30% chance of seeing some of the rain, and that's about it. Sunshine returns later on this afternoon, but it is going to be windy. We could see gusts over 40 miles an hour this afternoon, and we're going to stay above average at least a couple more days. Now we've got round 2, another cold front that's coming in on Thursday. This one's stronger. This one actually going to give us a better chance of snow, and it's going to cool us down to seasonal as we head into the weekend. We'll take a look at those temperatures coming up.
All right, thanks, Tiny Miller. I'll get back to the news.
Okay.
Montana's 25th governor promises a new way of doing business in Helena as Greg Gianforte and other statewide officials start their terms in office. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian has more.
On Monday, Governor Greg Gianforte and Lieutenant Governor Kristen Juris were sworn in a small ceremony at the Montana State Capitol. There were no large crowds as a typical inauguration would have. Gianforte said it was important that this event changed, as so many others during COVID-19 have had to.
Montanans have had to make sacrifices and do things differently. You've had to change how you celebrate holidays, scale down wedding ceremonies and postponed many of your long awaited plans. This inauguration ceremony is no different.
He praised first responders, healthcare workers, and others who've stepped up during the pandemic, and promised to lead a comeback from COVID and the economic devastation that accompanied it.
I am confident that with vaccines and increased testing, we will get a better handle on our response to COVID-19. I am confident that our economy will rebound. I am confident Montanans will get back to work in good-paying jobs.
Gianforte is Montana's first Republican governor in 16 years. He said he wants to take the state on a new course, focusing on economic growth and a more responsive government. He vowed to work with people across the political spectrum to serve the state. 4 other statewide officials were sworn in Monday. The first was Attorney General Austin Knudsen, who vowed to make the Department of Justice more efficient and focus on prosecuting crime, particularly involving drugs.
I know how much small town in rural Montana can benefit from a little extra help from the AG's office. The Attorney General's office can and must work better for the people of the state.
Also sworn in Monday were Secretary of State Christy Jacobson, State Auditor Troy Downing, and the only official starting a second term, Superintendent of Public Instruction Elsie Arnson. Those statewide offices had already been in Republican hands. Gianforte's victory gives the party all 5 seats on Montana's land board. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
And meanwhile, Montana's 2021 legislature also got underway at the state capitol, and despite the pandemic, most lawmakers showed up in person for the swearing-in proceedings. As MTN's chief political reporter Mike Dennison tells us, the first day was not without its moments of division.
While at least some of the session's proceedings will be done remotely or carried out with social distancing at the Capitol, that was mostly not the case on Monday. All but a few of the 100 House members crammed into their chamber for swearing in and electing their leaders for the session. Democratic members wore face masks, but most Republicans did not. In the Senate, however, about half of minority Democrats took part via Zoom from remote locations. Republicans have huge majorities at the 2021 session, 67-33 in the House and 31-19 in the Senate. Republicans said Monday they have a mandate from voters to enact new Republican Governor Greg Gianforte's agenda for business-friendly policies and less government. But they also said they want to ensure the session is conducted safely.
It is my priority to ensure a safe and healthy working environment for all in the Capitol building this session. That includes virtual participation for legislators and constituents. This will be the most accessible legislative session in history.
And Democrats said they're ready to be part of the discussion as well.
Our caucus is ready to build on our investment in infrastructure, to protect our gains in access to health care, and to make sure that we're investing in public education. These are things that Montana families need to thrive and survive across the state, and we hope that you'll join us.
Outside the Capitol, some Helena residents picketed to protest Republicans' refusal to enact stricter health guidelines at the session, including the wearing of masks. And a pro-Trump contingent also rallied in front of the building, where some attendees criticized moderate Republicans for undermining conservative policies. But back inside the Capitol, conservatives lost one of their first skirmishes on the House floor. They tried to impose a set of temporary House rules, which they said would give conservative Republican leadership a clear hand to enact the will of the voters.
I, for one, do not want to face the people back home who told me, please do as we asked you. Please enforce rules that are going to free up the people in the state of Montana and allow them to exercise personal responsibility and personal freedoms which have been denied to them in the last 10 months.
That move failed on a 42-58 vote, with 25 Republicans joining all 33 House Democrats to defeat it. That means conservative and moderate Republicans must work out a set of rules they can agree on as the session gets started this week. The rest of this week is mostly organizational meetings, with committees figuring out the technological landscape for remote testimony and other social distancing steps. But on Thursday, Governor Greg Gianforte presents his proposed changes to the state budget, and work on that budget and other issues will begin in earnest. At the Capitol, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
The session is scheduled to continue through April. Also making headlines this morning, last week the Census Bureau said it would miss its year-end deadline for dividing congressional seats. Now a White House attorney says it will happen until February. The count is based on population and determines the number of congressional seats for each state. The delayed deadline means President Trump's effort to exclude undocumented immigrants from the count likely won't happen. By February, President-elect Biden will be in office and could block the effort. Turning now to the latest on the pandemic. Coronavirus cases continue to surge around the country, particularly in Southern California. Right now in LA County, on average, one person is dying from COVID-19 every 15 minutes. CBS's Deborah Alfarone has more, including the push to better distribute the much-needed vaccine.
33 start for Harvard and Maine.
In this Orange County, California 911 call center, dispatchers can barely keep up.
It's just call after call after call.
Southern California is struggling to treat patients infected with coronavirus. LA County has seen more than 800,000 cases since the pandemic began. Ambulances have been directed not to transport patients with virtually no chance of survival. The county health director is warning the virus could soon kill 1,000 people there per week.
This is the worst medical disaster that I've seen in over 30 years of practicing in emergency medicine.
And while people who got the first dose of the vaccine are now getting their second shots, problems distributing the inoculations continue. Seniors are waiting in lines for hours in states like Florida, which has administered less than 25% of the doses it's already received. This warning from its governor.
Hospitals that do not do a good job of getting the vaccine out will have their allocations transferred to hospitals that are doing a good job.
The FDA is issuing caution on talk of giving just half doses of vaccines in order to get the shots to more people. It says changing in dosing is premature and not rooted solidly in the available science. This as a new variant of the virus spreading in Britain and dozens of countries has infected people in California, Colorado, Florida, and now New York.
Our scientists have confirmed this new variant is between 50 and 70% more transmissible.
The UK has issued a new nationwide lockdown expected to last until at least mid-February. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News.
And some health officials in the UK are raising concern about yet another variant, this one found in South Africa. A senior Oxford immunologist who helped create the university's vaccine said there was a big question mark over whether the current versions of the vaccines would work on the South African variants. Now on to Crime Watch. New crime numbers in Billings are through the roof. Assaults, altercations, and homicides are all trending in the wrong direction. Q2's Andrea Lutz breaks down these concerning numbers.
The data is definitely trending in a new direction for Billings crime stats. And probably the most notable thing to happen in 2020, an increase in murder cases. That's especially hard for a city already plagued by violent crimes.
U.S. cities are seeing a surge in violent crimes. The FBI even reporting within the first 6 months of the pandemic, murders were up 15%. Compare that, though, to a city the size of Billings, with 16 murders from January to November.
On average, Billings is usually, maybe 2 or 3 homicides. In some other spike years, we've been up to like 7, 8, or 9. We can't remember a year in the past that we've had 16 homicides.
And that's not all. Domestic violence was up 25%, assault on police officers up 50%, and assault with a weapon up 50% since the year before. Woolley says while they can't pinpoint for sure the reason for the increase, the pandemic has surely forced stressors on the public.
They're spending more time at home with partners. It's more likely to manifest into violence in a household.
But Billings has been dealing with an increase in violent crimes for years.
It's kind of like adding some gasoline to the fire. We've already been on an increase for violent crimes. We already have a significant drug problem like we've discussed in the past. And now we add this on top of it and it just magnifies.
And in turn, officers' hands are tied because through the pandemic, there's still been a constant issue of overcrowding at the jails.
The officers often feel like they're just pushing the problem around. We don't have any tools to deal with what's going on. We're only able to incarcerate high-level felony offenses.
While all but one homicide case has been deemed clear, the detective unit is running thin, something law enforcement hopes the public will think about.
The acuity of these violent crimes, the shootings, the homicides, those take up a substantial amount of more resources and time and effort by our staff. But this year has definitely been a spike abnormal to previous years.
And looking ahead to 2021, BPD is hoping to get designated beds in the jail so they have a place to take that influx in prisoners. In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
The Billings Police Department thinks these numbers can turn around. They hope vaccines will help to slow the pandemic. The end of a hot political season will calm things down, and they'll get those designated beds in the jail to accommodate the influx in arrests. Now continuing our coverage, a suspect involved in a fatal hit-and-run accident in Billings last weekend reaches out to police. Despite that, the 22-year-old man is not in custody. 66-year-old Shelley Bales was killed Friday night while crossing the 300 block of Rimrock Road. The coroner says Bales died instantly from multiple blunt force injuries. Police say they will not release the suspect's name during the ongoing investigation. A new program at St. John's United is helping nursing students gain on-the-job experience and a lot more. The long-term care facility signed on 5 future nurses to their fellowship program in 2021. As part of the program, the students have no debt upon graduation and no obligation to stay on with St. John's unless they choose to. Local businesses have pitched in to make this possible, and St. John's says the fellowship program is great for their workforce.
Retainment is a struggle, and then recruiting can be a struggle. So this program is great for definitely us here in HR as far as it's being a recruitment tool, and then the promise or the hope of these students continuing through the 2 to 4 year degree. It's a great retainment as well.
Applications are now open to enroll in the 2021 Nurse Fellowship Program. You can find out more in this story at ktvq.com.